maybe I can start slowly, of course, with introducing you to AdMind, first of all. But hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. It's about brand refresh versus rebranding and what does your business really need. And as I mentioned, I will slowly start with introducing you to AdMind, our organization. Maybe you have heard about us that we are a global branding and communication agency that helps B2B brands transform, grow, and lead in fast-changing world. For nearly 15 years, we've combined strategic thinking, creative excellence, and technological innovation to deliver award-winning designs and earn the trust of our clients worldwide. And you are part of a series called AdMind Webinars, which is a series of free webinars dedicated to design and branding. Each session offers valuable insights from industry experts, exploring trends, strategies, and of course, best practices that shape the world of creative branding. Maybe when it comes to the introduction, I will start, of course, with myself. My name is Zuza Boydo, and I'm an employer branding and talent acquisition specialist at AdMind. As you can see, I will be the host of today's webinar. And although I've been working at AdMind for almost 3 years, I can tell you one thing, I'm not a branding expert. Luckily, I can introduce you to two excellent specialists who will share their valuable knowledge with us today. So first up, we have Bartek Witek, who is our senior brand consultant at AdMind, with more than 17 years of creative experience under his belt, including branding and project management. Bartek is the person you want on your side when you consider rebranding or brand refresh. He's passionate about diving into new industries, finding insights that help brands grow. Another person we have on our call who is also a branding expert. We have Maciek Ochensky, who is our design team lead at AdMind. Maciek manages a team of 5 talented creative graphic designers and 3 project managers at AdMind. He's worked as graphic designer and later as an art director at some of Poland's most respected creative studios. He was also part of Art FM team, focusing on museum and exhibition design, where he took on the role of creative lead and designer. And also branding is his specialty. Bartek, Maciek, great to have you both here.
Thank you. And if I might add, it's like the second opportunity that we had a chance to work together, because previously we were in another company, in a similar role, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we had a history together.
That's good to hear, and actually that's a new news for me. So everybody will get some new information from this webinar. So great to have you here. Now that you all know who we are and what we do, I can share with you few important practical information. So first of all, as you probably can see, the meeting is recorded, and the recording will be shared with you after the meeting. You can also later on find it on our YouTube, for example. Of course, feel free to ask some questions during this call using the Q&A tool on Zoom. You can find it at the bottom of your screen under the screen we are sharing. We will try to answer as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. Now that we have those practicalities, technical stuff sorted out, we can slowly start the webinar, and we want to start with a quick poll question. You probably came here with some reason behind it, or maybe you just like to learn new stuff. Either way, you're welcome here. But there's a chance that maybe you are considering rebranding or brand refresh, and sometimes it might feel overwhelming, and you probably can see some risks behind it. So in a minute, you will see the poll on the Zoom call, and there will be one question, which is from your experience. What do you see as the main risk of drawbacks of the potential rebrand or brand refresh? You will have 1 minute to decide. So there are reasons like losing existing brand recognition, our logo designer will get too much fame, internal resistance, lack of buy-in, maybe short-term disruption to business performance, or maybe the costs are too high. So feel free to answer. As I mentioned, the poll will last for around 1 minute. Let's wait for the answers. Maciek and Bartek, unfortunately, we cannot vote, but so we won't, like spoil any results. Okay, so we have the answers in. So first reason is losing existing brand recognition. It's like around 55% of you guys decided that it's the main reason. Or short-term disruption to business performance, that was the second answer you have chosen. And the costs are too high. So these are the first three reasons. Yeah, thank you very much for your answers. Now I will leave your attention in very good hands of our experts. So Bartek and Maciek, the mic is yours. Take the stage.
Thank you. Just to let you know, later during the webinar, we'll try to address some of the issues that you voted for in this short poll.
And I'm going to share the presentation. So Zuza, if you just can confirm if you can see our screen. And is it working? Yes, all good, right?
Yes, all good.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with a short overview of the agenda of today's meeting. So first, we'll discuss the differences between a rebranding and a brand refresh. We'll also tell when to employ which of those two possible ways. We'll show some practical examples, case studies. Later, we'll discuss how to build internal alignment and how to create stakeholder buy-in. We'll close with Q&A session, so you will have a chance to ask some questions regarding the subject. Okay, so let's dive right in. At ArtMind, we talk to clients every day. The clients feel the brand isn't quite working as it should, but they're not sure whether they need to start from scratch or just update what's already there. So Maciej, let me start with a very basic but important question. How do you know if your brand is, so to say, aging gracefully or just getting old?
Thanks. That's actually a great question. I would say that when your brand no longer reflects the company standards, what the company stands for, or starts to feel out of sync with the audience, that's probably the first red flag. And sometimes it can be a very subtle thing, a visual identity that feels dated, or a communication that doesn't land like it used to, or often it shows up in the numbers first. Slower growth, lower engagement, losing ground to competitors, and clients often ask, is this a branding problem or a business problem? And usually it's both.
Yeah, well, that's true. The truth is brand and business are inseparable. So when you brand, is how people experience your business. So if you're seeking cracks in one, you almost always find them in the other. That's why today we want to explore the subject and not just how to spot the warning signs, but also what to do about them, when to refresh, when to rebuild, and how to make sure your brand stays as a real driver from growth. Oh, sorry, next slide. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about some statistics. Many practitioners and marketing experts suggest that companies tend to undertake a major rebrand every 7 to 10 years. And Maciek, what about the brand refresh? How do you know how often that happens?
A brand refresh happens more often than a full rebrand. For example, Era House points out that minor refreshes like updating the typography, the brand colors, that can happen every 3 to 5 years.
Okay, and why is that? Why the interval is shorter with brand refresh than the regular rebranding?
It's probably a bit less complicated. The scale is a bit different. It's probably a bit more manageable when you're just doing minor tweaks. Of course, the minor tweaks can still be quite extensive in terms of global brands, but you're not redoing everything, right? So it's probably a bit more simple to refresh than to rebrand, and it takes shorter than the full rebrand.
Isn't also the fact that we kind of living in a super fast-paced world, and everything is changing so quickly. This also forces brands to evolve kind of much faster than in the past.
Yeah, the world of brands and communications is changing at a breathtaking pace. The customer attention spans are shorter than ever. Digital channels evolve month by month, and visuals as well as language trends are getting faster than before. Just think how long it took for brands in the 70s, 80s, or 90s to refresh their image.
Yeah, it's true.
And television, internet, social media platforms changed everything. Quickly, we moved from flat design to complex gradients, photos, 3D or generative content, whether it's code powered or AI based, right? And from minimalist UX to AI-driven personalization. On top of that, the communication channels like social media apps, AR, and AI keeps forcing brands to adapt, while consumers themselves are more sensitive, whether a brand feels outdated or behind the curve. And all of this means that companies can't wait a decade or 8 years for a full rebrand. And more often, a lighter brand refresh becomes necessary. And sometimes that preserves recognition, but signals that the brand is evolving and staying in tune with its audience.
That's exactly what we see at ArtMind as well. So more and more clients are approaching us, with not with requests for complete rebranding, but rather exactly for brand refresh. And that's why one of the reasons why we decided to organize the webinar to explain the differences and show the benefits of both ways, both solutions. Okay, so speaking of rebranding versus brand refresh, let's now analyze the scope of work in both cases to outline the differences between those two processes. So when it comes to full rebranding, when we talk about full rebranding, here we have to the left, we have the brand element list. So I will kind of make an overview of them. So in full rebranding, we almost always mean starting from scratch. This is usually triggered by major business changes. It may be a merger, an acquisition, or a fundamental shift in strategy, or the need to completely reposition in the market. It often involves redefining the entire brand foundation, like mission, vision, values, and the story the company wants to tell. That can also mean restructuring the brand architecture. Sometimes new names can be introduced, sub-brands, or even retiring existing ones. A full brand may change, doesn't have to, but may change the logo entirely, introduce a completely new color palette or typography and visual style. The messaging and tone of voice are usually rewritten, so to reflect new direction and quite often a new audience as well. It also goes beyond visual and beyond words. It's about culture as well. So a full rebrand often requires retraining teams, aligning leadership, and making sure the new identity is consistently lived across the entire organization. It's a big move, high investment, high impact, and longer timelines, but necessary when the current brand no longer represents who the company is or where it's going. Maciek, which brand elements can be changed as a part of brand refresh?
The brand refresh is about keeping what already works while giving the rest a much needed update. The strategy, the name, and overall identity usually stay the same, but we make smart adjustments so the brand feels fresh, relevant, and more engaging. And that might mean updating the color palette to feel more modern, introducing new typography, or shifting the illustration style. For example, we can move from 2D elements in the old brand to a dynamic 3D in the new one that's refreshed. And it may also match the brand's personality better in the new form. So photography is another great tool. The way images are framed, the tone they set, or even the subject they feature can completely change how people connect with the brand. Sometimes it's not visual at all. Refining the tone of voice can make the way a brand speaks feel sharper and more in tune with how people communicate today. The beauty of a refresh is that it's quicker, less disruptive, and more cost-effective than a full rebrand. And by adjusting the elements like colors, fonts, visuals, or messaging, we can give the brand new energy and keep it competitive, and still staying true to its core identity. And if I could maybe summarize these two approaches in a very approachable and short way, I would say that the brand refresh is like updating your wardrobe. It's a new look, perhaps a better fit. It's a bit more modern, but you're still the same person, right? And a rebrand is more like changing your whole identity. Your name, your voice, the mission, the way you show up entirely. It's deeper and more transformative.
Okay, it's interesting. This 7-year interval is interesting. I've heard once that, even us as people, we tend to make some shifts in our kind of slight changes in personality every 7 years. So there must be something to it. Of course, joking, kind of way of approaching this. Okay, so when to refresh, when to rebrand. To summarize what we've just discussed, when we notice some major business changes like merger, pivot, acquisition, or when we see that current brand is misaligned with mission on its values, when reputation has been damaged, or perhaps the brand is expanding into new markets and needs full repositioning versus competition, then basically rebranding would be the way to go. While when the business strategy is still relevant, but the problem is visuals that may feel dated, it needs some modernizing. When messaging or tone of voice needs a little bit of sharpening, brand recognition is strong, but relevance is slipping. And of course, when a client needs a faster, cost-effective update, then refresh would be the way to go. We've already discussed certain components and how they change as a part of rebranding process and how they change in the brand refresh process. Now we would like to talk about some practical examples using case studies from Admine's work, but also from some general domain. So let's discuss some brand refresh examples first.
Sure. Let's look at some interesting examples of the brand refreshes from global brands. Some of these come from our own work, others from public domain. But what they all have in common is that the brands achieved a real sense of freshness by changing just one key element of their visual identity. So we will start with a company called Fornell. And
yeah, this is one of our clients. The client approached us with the need to refresh the visual layer. This is the previous campaign, which relied heavily on black and white photography. They also had a brand hero who was present throughout the communication. And it looked a bit outdated. Client wanted something new. Client is about technology. So they are a supplier of electronic, high advanced cutting edge technologies, electronic components. So let's see how we solve this problem.
Yeah. So in principle, the brand kept its core elements, but made small yet impactful changes. So the basic color palette remained as it was. However, the weight and impact of each color shifted, especially once the white was introduced as a primary color. The typography was tweaked, the shapes and use of graphic elements is different. But the main and most impactful difference is the introduction of the 3D renders. They replaced the photos used in the previous identity. And in the end, the overall feeling changed. Final today seems much more tech-oriented, well-sorted, cleaner, and purposeful. So yeah, the next one we would like to present is UBS. And this brand felt that it needed a change, and it was probably a bit outdated, generic, and corporate with this use of stock imagery. And it created a distance between the brand and its clients. So quite a simple solution was introduced. And while the rest of the identity remained almost unchanged, so the colors, the typography, there were still several small tweaks. But what we're focusing on is this one key element. So a warm color overlay was added to the photos, as the themes for the imagery change as well. But this one small element elevated the brand. And immediately it looks much more appealing, friendly, and approachable. And for a bank faced front to its customers, I think that it's very important to create or shorten this distance, which I think was quite visible before. So yeah, adding a color overlay can drastically change how the brand looks.
Yeah, so it's fascinating how kind of playing with one small component of the entire brand visual identity can really make the difference, right?
Yes, and I would like to now show how the brands evolve through time, but just with logos. We all know the bangers, the Google, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, or even BBC. Their logos are etched in our brains and in our retinas. But this shows no drastic shifts, no revolutions. It's a meticulous step-by-step process of perfecting the logos. Consistency across time is key. So when there is no need for revolution, the brand is confident, it's in good condition, has a loyal customer base, and well-established presence. Staying relevant and up-to-date is key to remaining on top. And of course, with these examples, we are showing just one element of those brands, just the logos. No brand refresh goes without updating other elements of the visual identity. We are perfectly aware of that, but for the illustrative purposes, we're just focusing solely on the logos in this instance.
Okay, so in those three examples, you also see the changes as some kind of evolution, yes? So more like on the end of brand refresh rather than total rebranding, right?
Yes, exactly. And what's also, I think, visible in these examples is that across time, brands in general, or maybe it's a trend that's existing for some years now, it's simplifying, right? So, when Google started, it was all googly and funny and colorful, and we had drop shadows and, bevels, that sort of stuff. Starbucks or Coca-Cola were much more elaborate, intricate, and detailed. And all three iterations of all these brands became much more flat, much simpler. It's easy. We still retain the core brand elements and identity, but the exposition of the logos, the ability to reproduce in much different or a bigger variety of assets. Simplifying helps that, right?
So you mean like a digital media, right? To kind of provoke
right.
this kind of changes. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
And I think that we can conclude our refresh part and move on to the rebrand now. And, a hard rebrand often marks a huge milestone, and it has to be visually impactful. It signifies a change or a shift in company's positioning, status, or aspirations, reinventing how we perceive a certain brand by its looks and messaging needs boldness. So sometimes even a pretty extensive research is not enough. Sorry, not research, but a refresh, of course. And our first case would be ABB. Full disclosure, this is also one of our clients, so we are quite familiar with the brand. And formerly with previous identity, ABB had a solid but perhaps a bit uninspiring brand visually. There were common elements. The logo and its red color were among the most characteristic elements. The layouts were sorted, one font used across all touch points, imagery was okay. But all in all, I think altogether the brand lacked something. So recently, ABB went through a brand repositioning. In terms of visuals, it kept its core elements like the logo, and this is actually a very interesting case. And I think we rarely see this, that with this whole rebranding, revamping, the logo actually stayed the same, nothing changed, right? So, the red color from the logo shifted into the gradient with addition of a second supportive color, the lilac. The imagery gained, I would say, momentum and scale. It's much simpler, bolder, and product photography is much better sorted.
Would you say that the imagery, especially in the photography layer, has evolved?
Yes, and I think it's clearly visible that it's a step up from the previous visuals. The changes may be subtle, but I think the boldness is key in this shift, right? I think the brand is much more mature and let's say maybe self-aware in terms of how it looks. It's not as kind of random. In the new brand, we can see the grid much better. Even if it's like an underlying grid, the typography sits where it sits. Everything's sorted. And the final addition is, I think, the headline font, which is derived from the base one, but it's redesigned and acts like another new element. It's still a font that was used, but it's tweaked, revamped, and again, adds a bit of boldness, I guess. Okay, moving on. Slack redesign was implemented to combat the chaos and inconsistencies of the old brand. And I'm saying chaos, but this is actually something that the brand was speaking about itself when the rebrand was happening. So they were perfectly aware of all the drawbacks or all the inconsistencies of the old brand. So a dozen different shapes and colors, randomness. It was quite a lot. And the new brand got rid of it. They redesigned the logo, simplified the color palette, created new shades based on the logo, and they play around with them. It's introduced coherence, functionality, but it's much more simpler, approachable, pretty straightforward, and for a sort of tech company that Slack is, and with the products they offer, it just couldn't work as it used to, right? So it was much needed change. The third case that we have is Tupperware. And sometimes a company finds itself not relevant anymore, outdated, and in dire need of bumping up its sales even. So as a turnaround strategy, Tupperware found a window of opportunity to position itself differently and appeal to much younger audience. The demographic is much younger than it used to be before. So gone is the clutter and randomness, and in came the visual identity that feels cohesive, friendly, approachable, and fun. The shapes, the colors, typography, even the products themselves, it all just simply work together. And the last one that we have is PayPal. It's quite a recent rebranding, and the dynamic market and emergence of rival services within a couple of past years pushed PayPal to modernize its image. The rebrand, first and foremost, modernize the logo. Now we have just the logo type. The stylus double P icon was dropped from being a part of the logo as a symbol to just a visual element. There is new color palette based on the previous one, but I think the characteristic yellow color was dropped. But all in all, I think that it's much more coherent right now. It's much more fresh, more consistent, and I think relevant to the changes in the market that I guess happened as they were the leader, but the emergence of other companies just pushed them to rebrand.
Thank you, Maciej. If I make some observation, it's like it seems as if some brands that used to be kind of colorful, vivid, appealing with a visual language with many components of it, they diagnosed the need to cool it down, make it more disciplined, more kind of narrowed down the scope of the visual expression, while some other brands, in contrast, as Baby B, whose visual language was very kind of minimalistic discipline, they evidently were lacking some kind of more expressive forms of communication. So it's like I can see that it's like both ways direction possible for brands to reintroduce the visual communication, right?
Yes, that's a very good observation, and I think it all depends, right? You can go from a brand that was quite simple. You can introduce new elements, new visual approaches. You can add gradient on top of a solid color like ABB did that. But if it's done properly, it doesn't introduce the clutter, right?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, when we start with the clutter and we reduce the amount of elements, the image of the brand gets much cleaner, right? So it all depends.
Very much so. Thank you so much. Okay, so these were the visual examples. And now let's get more technical and let's talk about an agile tailored process by ArtMind. So basically, we always tailor the process to adjust it to the client's starting point. At times, clients approach us with a clear definition of the problem. They usually did the homework, conducted the entire analysis. But sometimes, though, they need assistance in defining where the problem is. Of course, we try to be flexible as much as possible and adjust the project to the client's situation. Nevertheless, there are certain areas that always need looking into. We always start by understanding the real need. Sometimes the client comes with an idea and sometimes with a symptom. The process starts with the involvement of the brand strategy team. So at step one, we always start by understanding the bigger picture. Who are your audiences? What do they need? How do you compare with competitors? What's happening in the market? For this, we use audits, benchmarks, and interviews to really diagnose where the brand stands today. Step two, we bring the right people into the room. So these workshops are about alignment, making sure leadership, marketing, and other teams are on the same page about what the brand should achieve. It's also where we capture the different perspectives that shape the brands. And insights gathered at this point and conclusions drawn during the research and audit are sensitized to inform the brand refresh or rebranding solution, the degree of shift that is required from the current brand. So this is the stage when we can make really informed decision about how deep this brand transformation should go. Maciej, what happens next?
Okay, so step three would be concept development and the visual direction. So it's from there we move into the ideas. We create strategic concepts, visual territories, and narrative directions. It's about exploring different ways the brand can evolve and giving you options to see what feels most relevant and authentic. The next step would be brand identity systems and guidelines. So once the direction is chosen, we build the system. This is where colors, typography, imagery, and tone of voice all come together into a coherent identity. We also create brand guidelines and toolkits to make sure your team can use it consistently. Step 5 is implementation, applying the brand across all important assets, from websites and presentations to campaigns or internal channels. At this stage, we also adapt for local markets, make sure everything works in practice and it's just not a theory, right? And the last step is support and rollout. And we help you launch the refreshed or rebranded identity both internally and externally. That could mean training your teams, running internal engagement campaigns, or supporting external communication. And we don't just leave you there. We monitor and optimize as needed.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to the next one. It's not step. It's rather something that should be present throughout the entire process, and especially later in the implementation of a brand refresh or rebranding, and it's consistency, right?
Yeah. So everything we talked about so far, so research, identity, rollout, it all comes down to one thing: consistency. And consistency across messaging, tone of voice, visuals, every touch point. Because without it, even the best refresh or rebrand just won't stick.
Yeah, in fact, brand that's maintained consistent branding across channels tend to see across between 20 to 30% increase in revenue compared to those that have inconsistent brand presentation. So it only shows how vital this component is and how it should be kept kind of under control. Okay, and one of the kind of set of issues that our clients have been experiencing, we're trying to convince the company into brand refresh or rebranding, depending on the scale, is gaining internal buy-in for the process. A rebrand or refresh only really works if the people inside the company are on board. Culture and leadership support are key. That's why we involve teams relatively early. We try to do that through workshop, through storytelling, and practical tools like clear guidelines. In one project, the real success came when the company really trained the teams in the refreshed language. So everyone felt involved and the change became part of how the whole organization communicated on a daily basis. So how do you actually make that happen? Let's walk through 7 steps, practical steps that help secure internal buy-in. So step number 1, people don't resist change because they hate new colors or new logos. They resist it because they don't see the reason behind it. So the first step is explaining the why in very simple terms. What's not working today and how the change will help. Step number 2, don't just design behind closed doors as sometimes happen, and unveil it with like a big ta-da. You have to bring key people into the process from the very start. That way, they feel like co-owners or sometimes even like co-creators, not just as passive recipients. Connects to business. Yeah.
May I?
Yeah, of course.
I think what we're trying to do is, build trust and connection, and that happens through conversation. So we try to treat our clients equally. We are the experts, but it's a conversation. It's a dialogue, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So again, the same mode of communication that is between us and clients' teams need to be later on implemented in within the organization to ensure the equal involvement. Yeah, exactly. So let's go to point number 3. So every brand or refresh isn't only about looks, isn't only about looking better. Show how it supports growth. You have to help it. You can prove that it helps attract talent, make communication clearer, or open door in new markets. When you present the link to business performance, you really can make the change meaningful and help to convince them, all stakeholders. Step number 4, There will, of course, there'll always be doubts about cost, about efforts. You also expressed some of the doubts in the beginning when we did the poll. The worst thing you can do is to ignore them, basically. You have to address them openly, give people space to ask questions, and then when there's transparency, then the trust appears. Step number 5, big projects take time, but if people can see small improvements early on, like a new deck template, sharper messaging, or fresher visuals, it proves the project is real and it really builds the momentum. Well, step number 6. Every company has some natural advocates. I'm sure you can spot them in your own organizations. People who get excited about the brand and influence others. Involve them, give them a role, and they'll help spread the energy across teams. And step number 7, of course, communicate continuously. Don't just make big announcements and move on, but just keep sharing updates, stories, and examples as the rollout continues. Repetition is key. That's how the new brand becomes part of everyday behavior, not just one-time event. And I think at this point, we can get back to our initial poll when participants mentioned losing brand recognition and short-term disruption as some of the possible drawbacks from the process. So I think also this part, I hope like throughout our presentation, but especially in the last part, we managed to answer some of those, address some of those issues. So losing brand recognition, basically, I would say that the guarantee it won't happen is in the first steps of the process. So when we have the analytical part, right? Quite often we employ some service or researchers with company stakeholders, but also with brands clients. This helps us to diagnose which of the components of the brands are perceived as strong ones and should be kept, which of them define recognition. So analytical part, which is the first 2 steps of the process, helps us to identify those key factors. So it's in simple words, so as not to lose it later on when we develop the changes.
You try to find and focus on the strong points, right?
Exactly,
and,
yeah.
The strengths. And if that's carried over, it's kind of like a guarantee that it's going to work.
Yeah.
It's going to stick, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's like about the definition, which needs changing, in simple words, which needs retaining, which of the brand components. And short-term disruption, and I would say this quick wins, point number 5, addresses this issue. So regardless of the length of the process, which in terms of, well, in case of full rebranding can really be a lengthy one, those highlighting quick wins. So it's like quite often we also get the requests. So client realizes that the full rebranding process will take some time, but they want to start with some presentation deck, right? They already have something refreshed. They can share with the teams and show really quick results in kind of short term. I hope we managed to address the apprehensions you expressed in the very beginning. Would you like to add anything?
Coming back to those doubts, I guess, it's always a risk, right? But we are here to mitigate those risks, right? We do our due diligence, we do the research, we work with the client very closely, we diagnose problems, and we build on that, right? So the whole process is a way to ensure our potential client that the transition will be smooth and effective, right?
Yeah, that is very true. Okay, I think that's it in a nutshell. I hope we managed to cover clear distinction between the brand refresh process and the full rebrand. We showed you some examples. We showed some triggers for both ways of treating the brand revolution process or evolution, depending on the needs. I hope we also managed to outline the risks, but first of all, the benefits of both approaches. Before we move on to questions and answers session, I think, Zuza, we have another poll, right?
Yes, exactly. You have another poll, but first of all, thank you very much for like really nice presentation.
Thank you.
It definitely gave us a lot of information about rebranding and refresh. But we are curious, like everybody on the call, like, are you considering a brand refresh, rebranding in the foreseeable future? And in a minute, you should see our poll. Okay, so it's probably visible right now. So are you considering it within the next 12 months? Maybe some changes are necessary, but still you're not sure if a brand refresh or rebranding is possible, is necessary. Yes, but maybe in a few years or not really. Again, you will have like a minute to answer the question. And after it, we'll move on to our Q&A session. So if you have some questions, feel free to let us know through Q&A panel. Let's wait another few seconds. And again, Maciek and Bartek, we cannot cheat, we cannot answer this panel.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Even though I know you want to work on some brand refreshes and or rebrandings.
Right before even, there was still some information that, that we can do it, it's like.
Yeah. Okay, so we have the results. So like most of the people, 46% answered that they want to do a rebrand or refresh within the next 12 months. So the next two answers are like some changes are necessary, but still not sure if they need a brand refresh or rebranding. And the next answer is yes, but in a few years' time. So actually the majority of you are considering brand refresh or brand rebranding. So like it's a good coincidence that you came to this webinar. And thank you very much for your answers. Now we can move on to some Q&A sessions, Q&A session and some questions that the audience has asked us. And right now we have two questions, so feel free to ask us anything you would like to. But first of all, we have quite a complex question. How do you see the refreshed identity for agencies? What do you see as the biggest challenges? How can we do it well without losing our DNA, maintain the color, name, and more? How did you get through this process? So this is a complex question, actually a few questions in one.
I just would like to make sure, because I didn't understand the beginning. Does this question refer to any specific company? Yeah, I didn't get that.
Agency, yeah?
Agencies. How do you see the refreshed identity for agencies?
For agencies, okay. So I guess this question is about doing this for yourself, right? So if you are a part of an agency, you work in a company of that sort, and you are part of a rebrand for yourself, right?
That's the point of the question, right?
Yes, I believe so.
It's always the hardest to do something for yourself, even if I don't know, you are a designer and you are redoing your portfolio or just starting to do it for yourself. It's hard, it's challenging, but in companies or in agencies, you are not alone. You're a part of a group of experts. You do have the experience of doing this for other companies. So I guess it's just basically doing the same thing that you do for others, but to do it to yourself, right? So you still evaluate, you move to the strategy phase, to implementation, etc., etc. You do the same process. I don't think it's different.
Yeah, I would say the basics are the same. If I understood the question correctly, it means like a rebranding of a branding agency conducted by their own people. I think what is key here is to keep the distance, because it's difficult to kind of, to be like a judge in your own case, or to be like a doctor to yourself. So I think the key would be to getting the proper distance to really approach it in an objective way. And that's why, you know, the whole process with gaining information, analysis, and drawing conclusions.
Yeah, the process gives us this opportunity to distance ourselves, right? A bit at least,
Yeah.
To be more objective.
Yeah.
And not take it as emotionally, I guess, maybe sometimes, because you get attached to your ideas, especially when you do it for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So the process, trust the process, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting the distance to act in an unbiased way, kind of, and make informed decisions.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Next question we have, it says a little bit easier one, I believe. Hi, what would be the typical time frames for brand refreshes versus rebrands?
Again, it depends, right?
Yeah.
It depends on the scale of a company. It depends on the scope of the change, even if it's touching some parts of the brand and doing the refresh. If you move into global companies making rebrands, sometimes it can take years. But it's very hard to give an exact number, right? But
okay, so let's envision a situation. I'm trying to think out loud. Sorry, it's like let's envision the simplest possible kind of way. So the company has already clear definition of all the brand components. Nothing has changed strategically in terms of competition or in terms of the audiences. Everything, the whole landscape stays the same. But just the company decided, I don't know, they need a refreshed color palette. Okay, so we have all the data in the starting point, and the only component changed being colors. How would you approach this?
We still have to do some research, right? At least the analysis. There need to be an interaction between us and the client. We probably need to learn the reasoning behind it. So there is still some, backroom process before we actually start doing the work.
Okay, yeah, I see your point.
Right?
Yeah.
But of course, if it's just a color and it's a, small to mid-size company, I would say it can take, between 2 and 6 months, for example.
Okay, because it's not just giving the new color definition, but also roll out and implementing it in all the touch points.
I assume
course,
it still has to happen, right?
Of course,
we have to, even if we touch the color palette, we still have to probably rework the brand guidelines, right? It all takes time. So all those small steps amount to the full timeline. So even if just the design part takes 1/3 of the whole time, the other 2/3 need to be done as well.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So the size of the company and the number of assets that need to be refreshed is actually decisive about of the length of the process, right? Okay.
There's always testing, prototyping, perhaps creating templates with the new colors. It all depends on the scope, but it's always a lot of work. It's not as simple as just changing the colors.
And also, I think we like to kind of to deliver the quality solution. We kind of like to make sure in the very beginning of the process that the kind of diagnosis client approached us with is the proper one. So to say, double check, right? If this is really what the problem is, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And it may be, speaking from our own experience, the ABB that we are working on, right? It took us almost a year to move into building guidelines for specific elements of the brand, right? And this is just the design work. And what happens before? It's probably another 6 months, a year maybe. So with global brands, the time frames just get longer and longer, right? But again, we have to cover everything. We try to vouch for our work. We try to release everything in as good quality as possible. So quality takes time, right?
Okay, but let's begin. I'm trying to find some kind of positive kind of outlook here. So let's envision this is a small size company, and the scope of work is the color refresh, brand book, and let's say sales tech and product catalog. I guess it would be shorter, rather weeks than months,
of course,
right?
But maybe we can move into 2 months time frame, right? It's still just 8 weeks, right?
Of course,
so
yeah.
for the whole process, it's not that much, but you know, we can go down with time, but it's just based on the, scope.
Yeah.
Right?
I wasn't trying to kind of push you and kind of force you into saying like shorter.
I know that you know, I know where the questions come from, right?
Yeah.
And I also know that there are no easy answers, and we have to treat every case by case, right? So it all depends. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. To sum it up, it depends. So it just means like that you need to like work with the specialists who know more about it and know about the risks and the timelines the best, because it's not as easy as it maybe looks like for some people. So great, thank you very much for your answer. The next question is quite similar. I think you already answered it because it was about how long does the refresh and rebranding take. So I believe you already answered that question. Since we don't have another questions, I just wanted to let you know that Wawrzyniec, who is our silent hero on this webinar, just shared with you so link with which you can catch up with Bartek after a meeting if you will have some questions about the rebranding or any other questions. Yeah, I think we're slowly leaning towards the end of our webinar. So Maciek, Bartek, do you have anything to recap at the end of this meeting?
Well, basically more like a technical kind of remark. A couple of people present in the presentation mentioned that they're kind of considering some kind of brand refresh over the next period of time. So if any of you would like to kind of consult, discuss some findings, insights that you already have, or perhaps, you know, get to know more about how in particular the process might look like in your case, given what you already bring to the table, we open for meetings or any consultations. Don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you very much for to the participants. That was great having you here. I just like last information, I just wanted to remind you that AdMind Webinars is a series. So actually, if you are following us on social media, you will definitely hear about next webinars. I can tell you like this top secret information that the next webinar will be about how to craft corporate reports. It will be in autumn, most likely near the end of October. So if you are not following us on our social media, so LinkedIn or Instagram or maybe even YouTube, please do, because we are doing this quite regularly and there are a lot of topics that you might be interested in. So again, thank you all, Maciek, Bartek, thank you very much for your knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And yeah, have a great Thursday. Hopefully the weather in Krakow will get better. Yeah, thank you again. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.